No. The reason being, each of the commandments stands on its own merit. The fact that a person may have a weakness towards a particular transgression does not therefore give him license to go ahead and break other commandments. One is rewarded for fulfillment of the commandments that one does fulfill, and one is punished or not rewarded for things that are not to be done. So one should not therefore say, because I am not able to fulfill all of them, therefore I won't fulfill any of them. No, one should fulfill as much as one is able to. And we have a teaching in Ethics of Our Fathers that one commandment, one good deed draws another good deed and another good deed, and ultimately one is able to fulfill all of the commandments. God does not come with impossible tasks upon anyone and upon all of humanity, and not upon the Jewish people. We must always remember that many of the commandments don't apply to all Jews or others individuals. Many applied to the temple that stood on Mount Moriah in Jerusalem. Many of the commandments had to do with farming, with agriculture. Many had to do with having a king, with the concept of many of the commandments.
Rabbi, my big problem, the reason that I have this show,
yes,
is the great vast confusion that apparently is rampant in media concerning the words murder and the word kill. Not only is it problematical in media, but apparently the colleges don't even know the differences, because they're not teaching, for example, doctors who come out of colleges don't know the difference between sex and gender.
Yes, words have a way of having sometimes confusing meanings if we're not aware of exactly what they are supposed to convey or what their root is. The difference between murder and to kill is very clear. There is a possibility that there can be a capital punishment, a capital crime, and therefore there is a concept called putting one to death, and that is called the person is killed. There can be an accidental death. He was accidentally killed. But murder, which in Hebrew is tirtzach or rotzeach, the murderer, means that an individual has intentionally gone ahead without any due process or basis of legal action and taken another's life. And that is prohibited. In the Ten Commandments, the adjective used for the death of that individual or the prohibition of death is lo tirtzach, you shall not murder. Whereas there can be a concept of death where a person can be put to death, as we find in the Bible, for particular crimes, and or for instance the concept where there was an accidental death. So you cannot call that a murder, but you can call it a death, that the person was killed accidentally, and then there is a punishment where the individual that unfortunately was the method through which that death came, whether the axe sprung off of the handle and killed someone as he was chopping wood, goes into banishment for a period of time until it is ascertained whether or not there was any intentional death. Those were the cities of refuge that were set up in the land of Israel and outside of the land of Israel, 6 originally, and then a total of an additional 42, which brought it to 48.
Is there any similarity between those places of refuge, cities of refuge, and the modern-day prisons?
No, not at all. Modern-day prisons are very restricted areas where the individuals are not able to conduct a normal lifestyle, whereas the cities of refuges were actually cities, and they were areas where they were to be able to save themselves from the avenging relative or who would seek to harm the individual for the accidental death of a loved one or whatever.
What are we supposed to do to a murderer who has murdered someone?
he or she should be brought before a judicial court and given a defender, and a prosecution, and a trial and due process is to occur, and then a judgment is to be given.
Which means if they're found guilty of murder, what?
In Judaism, the capital punishment was very rare. It is stated in the Talmud that if there was a court, a Sanhedrin as it was called, that meted out more than one capital punishment in 70 years, it was called a murderous court. It was very, very hard to actually bring a capital case to a capital punishment, the fulfillment of that punishment. The purpose of capital punishment was and is to deter the people from doing horrible crimes, rather than to, God forbid, punish the individual by taking his or her life. Judaism emphasizes and stresses that we should always repent, or we should always better ourselves, and we should always fix that which we have caused harm to.